If you're an NVIDIA or semiconductor investor, you're going to want to stay tuned to today's episode. Today, I want to take a closer look at a lot of different news impacting the overall semiconductor market in the past few days. And we're going to take a closer look at companies like Intel, TSMC, the AI space, regulations, and the list goes on and on. But before we take a closer look at this, make sure to hit the thumbs up, make sure to hit the subscribe button, check out the pinned comment for special offer at fool.com/Jose. And I also have a special link to my earnings ebook, which is 50% off right now. So let's get started.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so the first company we're going to start off with is Intel Corporation. And we can see in the past 5 days, the stock is down roughly 1%, but from its 5-day peak, the stock is down roughly 5.3%. I want to say one of the biggest news coming out for Intel is there was a finalization on the CHIPS Act, and Intel has been awarded roughly $7.86 billion for the CHIPS Act. This direct funding is addition to the $3 billion contract awarded to Intel for some government chip designs that they announced about a month ago. So this is obviously great news for Intel, as Intel is becoming it wants to become a strong powerhouse here in chip manufacturing, especially here in the United States. So this is going to help with their overall advancements in manufacturing chips here in the United States, and also advanced packaging projects in Arizona, New Mexico, Ohio, and Oregon. Now, again, I'm not bullish. I've shared my thoughts on Intel, but overall, I do believe that here the United States needs to have more manufacturing, and Intel Corporation is important. And if they do succeed in this manufacturing push, I do believe that could bode well for investors. There's a lot of ifs here, but I've definitely shared my thoughts of Intel in the past. Now, the funding itself wouldn't be a reason for me to buy or sell the stock. I think many people were already expecting this kind of news for Intel since the CHIPS Act was kind of mentioned. One thing that I thought was pretty interesting is there are reports that Intel would not be allowed to sell its stake in the chip making unit at will. So that's definitely something to keep in mind of, because there have been rumors and reports that Intel has kind of been that there's been discussion that Intel might spin off or sell off its foundry business. But it seems like with this funding intact, that's probably not going to be the case. And I think that is great news for Intel investors in general. Now, the next news is also going to impact another kind of semiconductor manufacturer, and this is going to be TSMC. In the past 5 days, the stock is down roughly 4.3%. I want to say in the next 7 days or so, we should be getting their November revenue numbers, as they release revenue numbers on a monthly basis, and the one going to be upcoming is November, usually around December 5th through December 10th is when it comes out. Now, the news here that I have for TSMC is to significantly upscale CoWoS production within the upcoming quarters. And that's overall great news for companies like NVIDIA and other chip makers, mainly just NVIDIA, but obviously other chip makers as well, as right now we know the bottleneck in the AI market is pretty much mainly because of the constraints we're seeing in advanced packaging, mainly CoWoS solution. So it's great to see this. Obviously, we've heard from TSMC during their earnings call that they are going to increase CoWoS capacity, but it's great, in my opinion, to be able to actually see those outside of the earnings and kind of get evidence that that's the case. Now, the third company we're going to take a closer look at is Qualcomm. Now, Qualcomm in the past 5 days is up roughly 2%. From its peak in the past 5 days, the stock is down roughly 1.7%. Now, for Qualcomm, one of the biggest things is they are just pushing into the AI PC market with their Snapdragon X CPUs. And this has been a huge growth reason for the stock, and I do believe it's one of the main reasons the stock has kind of seen a nice rise up in early July. But we can see from those peaks the stock is actually down roughly 30%. Maybe I might do an episode on Qualcomm later on. Let me know in the comments below. But it seems like their AI PC race or their AI PC market growth is not really doing much. Qualcomm, based on reports, managed to sell around 700,000 Snapdragon X devices, which only accounted for about 1% of all PCs sold in quarter 3 of 2024. Now, this can actually be seen as obviously bearish for the stock. One, it showcases that, look, Qualcomm, while it does seem to have a good product in paper, it's always important to see how the consumer is willing to accept your product. The second thing I also want to say, it can also showcase that the AI PC craze and this AI PC growth is not happening as fast as maybe some expected. Now, we've heard from other players that this AI PC market is not going to be a massive jump, but it's going to be something that grows over time. And this is just the beginning of the tailwind. So obviously, there's more potential for Qualcomm, but there are reports going online. And if you go to a lot of the Black Friday sales right now, a lot of those computers on heavy discounts tend to be the ones with Qualcomm's Snapdragon X Elite, which can be seen as a bearish case for the overall stock. Now, the next company we're going to take a closer look at is Amazon. The stock is doing pretty good. It's not in the semiconductor space, but they did have some interesting news in the past few days. The stock is up nearly 5%. Amazon is reportedly dropping a new AI model called Olympus within the next few weeks. And that is going to be pretty exciting because I believe Amazon is the only big tech player that hasn't really kind of had their own AI solution. We have obviously Microsoft, they have that partnership with OpenAI and ChatGPT, which is used on their Copilot. So I would say GPT is part of Microsoft. We have Google with Gemini, and Amazon has been investing in a company like Anthropic, but Anthropic is also having investors from other big tech players. It seems Amazon is also focusing in its own AI models, and I do believe this will be great news for kind of semiconductor market as it continues to show that, hey, look, all big tech players are really focusing here in AI models, in large language models, in video models, image models, and the list goes on and on. So for Amazon to be dropping more models, I think it's just showcases a nice bullish trend in this market. Next, we're going to take a closer look at Dell Technologies. Unfortunately, Dell is down roughly 13% from its peak and about 11% in the past 5 days. Its peak in the past 5 days is down around 11%. The main reason, Dell reported earnings, and I did a Dell earnings video. Make sure to check it out. But the main things that happen here is, unfortunately, the AI PC turnaround is not happening as fast as previously expected. We pretty much saw that with Qualcomm as well. The second thing is we also saw that for Dell Technologies, a lot of their AI server orders got moved on later in date as customers would rather buy the Blackwell platform opposed to the Hopper platform. Dell Technologies, I've talked about it in the past, not a company I personally would purchase. Talking about the manufacturing space a little bit earlier in this episode, some really quick news. It does seem like Samsung Electronics, for those that are not familiar, Samsung is a manufacturer of memory, one of the biggest manufacturers of memory, and it's also an important semiconductor chips in general. And right now, it seems like there are some changes in chips in general just kind of grab my attention now. But in I'm lost. But whatever, in leaders, as the company, there's been so many rumors that Samsung is lagging in its manufacturing push. It's lagging in its memory push. So it seems like a shift is needed right now because this is becoming a highly, highly competitive space. Next, we're going to take a closer look at the last topic. And on Friday, I believe it was Friday, we had a lot of great movement on the semiconductor manufacturing market. I mean, we can see ASML was up 2.4% on the day. In the past 5 days, the stock is actually up nearly 3%. The main reason is there are out reports that came out that originally we are expected to get some more export restrictions on equipment for semiconductor companies within the next few days, right? That's what we're expecting. Within the next few days, within the next few weeks, we should be hearing some more export restrictions for semiconductor equipment players. Now, based on recent reports by some kind of by Bloomberg, it indicates that the restrictions are actually a lot less strict than previously expected. So it did cause a nice bullish trend for semiconductor companies like ASML, like Applied Material, which were both up pretty a nice amount on the day. So this is I'm definitely bullish in the semiconductor equipment space right now. A few days ago, I did a video on the companies I am bullish on. But that's all I have for you guys today. I do believe it was a pretty interesting week for the semiconductor market. We have a lot of great news that we covered here today. If there was anything I missed, definitely let us know in the comments below. There's a lot of news that I probably missed. These are just ones that I believe are important to kind of understand a lot of the ecosystem here. So take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.